Hello and welcome to the Motivational Millennial Podcast, where we talk with inspiring members of the millennial generation who are living life with a sense of purpose and achieving their dreams. I'm Blake Brandis.
And I'm Ivy LeClaire.
Our motivational millennial guest today is Dr. Laymon Hicks. Laymon is a youth motivational speaker and author. He's offered keynote addresses and workshops at more than 150 schools and student conferences in 45 states for over 350,000 young people. Laymon attained his bachelor's and master's degrees from Florida State University, where he served as student body president managing a $10.3 million budget. In December 2016, at the age of 29, Laymon graduated with his doctorate degree from Northeastern University, and this January, he became a father to his beautiful daughter, Carson. Laymon, welcome to the show.
Well, I'm so excited to be here with you all, Ivy and Blake. It's great to have opportunity to talk about millennials and my personal journey. So thanks for having me.
We appreciate all of your motivation and inspiration that you provide to so many young people around the world. So to kick off, we'd love to hear more about what you're up to at the moment and why you're so passionate about it.
First, obviously, I'm a new dad. So taking this opportunity to explore and learn what all that is, what it means to be a father, and truly understand this new responsibility that I have and continue to grow as far as a professional speaker and impacting the lives of young people all across the nation. So for me, it's, continuing to reach out to people to figure out how I can bring my message to students all across this nation. And then looking at ways to connect more, using my research to connect more with principals and leaders who are in positions so they can build better relationships with their followers.
What is the main message that you share with these young people?
I think I have a huge message of resilience. I was raised by my grandmother and grandfather. My dad wasn't in my life. And for me growing up, I really felt like at the time I was the only kid in the world who didn't have a father figure. And I never really understood that there are so many more people out there in the world who actually go through the exact same things that I was going through. And so now today, what I try to get students to understand is that regardless of whether or not you have a parent in your life, that shouldn't stop you from accomplishing what it is that you want. 2, changing your perspective. A lot of times I know it's easy for us to look at things and very negatively. And so I've been there. I've had these opportunities that have come up in my life where I felt like I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. Can I really do this? And so today I try to encourage students to remind them that, hey, I was exactly where you are. But if you change your perspective and realize you own this and you have the power to be who you really want to be, nothing's stopping you if you don't allow it to stop you. You can go out there and accomplish what it is that you want. And so I try to remind students specifically that, you have to be positive, that you have to get off your butt and make something happen, and that you have to neutralize what I call the weapons of mass distraction. And so that's Facebook, that's Instagram, Twitter, that's negative people in your life, all these things that are stopping you from accomplishing what it is that you want. Get out of your own way. A lot of times we are our biggest obstacle. And so if we're able to remove ourselves out of the equation, our negative thinking, the drama that we bring to our own lives, who knows what we could accomplish.
And was there a major turning point in your life where you realized this perspective?
Yeah, 8th grade, honestly. For me, I went to an elementary school that was predominantly white people. So a lot of my friends were white. I went to a middle school, though, that was predominantly mixed. A lot of black kids. And so at the time, I was really struggling with trying to fit in. And so I was doing things to be liked by people who necessarily didn't truly care about me as an individual. I used to have my grandmother go out and buy candy so I could take it to school and give it away just so I could get people to like me. And I realized at the 8th grade, I was going into 9th grade. So that summer, I realized that I was heading down the wrong path. I was hanging around the wrong people, and that I needed to make a shift, a change in my life. And so what I did was I emailed our superintendent. I live in the 8th largest school district in the nation. I emailed the superintendent at the time and said, hey, I know that this school is opening up for law and criminal justice. I have a goal that I want to be a lawyer one day. Is it possible that I can go to this high school? Now, this school is like 45 minutes from where I live, and it was a magnet program, so you had to apply. I received an email back saying, you've been accepted. I hadn't even applied yet, but I was automatically accepted. So, what I did was for my freshman year in high school, every morning I caught a bus at 6 a.m. just to get to high school by 7:25 when the bell rang. So I would catch two buses just to get to school. But it allowed me to leave everything that I knew behind and put myself in a new position where I knew no one, and I can start rebuilding who I am, who I was as an individual. And so I definitely credit that decision to email the superintendent at the 8th grade as a pivotal life-changing moment for me.
Well, that's just so impressive that at such a young age you felt the ownership and the authorship in your own life to take that initiative and to do that. That's such a great gift for yourself and for others to be able to share that. I just love that so much.
And I think the reality is that we all have that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it just takes others to pull it out of us. Now, I've always been a very self-motivated individual, so a lot of it comes from within. But, as I meet a lot of students across the nation, I recognize they have this gift as well. But sometimes they need people to push them there to say, you know what, it's in you. Now go live it.
And that's such a good reminder, too, that you share with students about who really cares about you.
Right.
We all want to be liked. We all want to be loved. We all want to be accepted. It can be really hard, especially at that age when you're trying to figure out who you are, to have that sense of self-worth to say, I deserve to be loved. I deserve to spend time with people who actually care about me. So I'm wondering now, as you're embarking on this journey of fatherhood, how do you feel that you have changed as a person, just even finishing your doctoral program and becoming a father?
I think from the perspective of accomplishing a doctorate degree, one of my mentors said to me, this would be the hardest thing that you ever do. And I never felt like it was hard because I was in love with the stuff that I was doing. I love my material. I love the research process. I mean, I would get giddy when I was doing my interviews, my research, but there were plenty of times where this imposter syndrome would hit me. And I would say, am I good enough to accomplish this? Am I good enough to be called Dr. Hicks? And even now, I'm 30 years young, and there are people who will never reach this pinnacle. And I know that from the fact of, I travel, again, we travel all across the nation speaking at schools. And there have been times where I'll go to a school and someone would say, oh, I'm a motivational speaker too. And I'm like, no, you're not, because you're here at this school and I'm here at the school speaking, but you're here getting paid by this school to work here. Like, this is my livelihood. If I don't speak, I don't eat. And so, with the doctorate degree, I walk into places now and there are people who are like, well, I have 20 years of experience as a teacher. What could you possibly tell me? Or, you're so young. There's nothing that you can tell me. And so there's been times where I questioned myself and I realized, you know what? I have to stop doing that. I have to stop asking, am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? Because I worked for this. I put in the hours. I stayed up late nights researching, doing the writing. I really worked for this. And so I am good enough. I am worthy enough of being called Dr. Hicks. Now, it is amazing to me that people do call me that. I prefer to be called Laymon, but people call me Dr. Hicks. And it's like a moment where I have to pinch myself and say, wow, like you really accomplished this. When I think about fatherhood, though, I think one of the things that I have definitely learned is patience. I want things to be the way I want them to be at the right time. And I'm kind of a perfectionist. And I've realized, like my daughter runs a show, honestly. It's just like, you have to be patient and, realize that you're leading someone else's life and you're trying to truly guide them and give them the best direction that you can possibly give them. Now, I knew that standing in front of 1,000 students that, that was my mission as well. But now that I have my own child, you want to be the best individual that you can. And so everything that I do, I have to remind myself, is this something that will make her proud?
I think that's a really interesting orientation, especially thinking about how it sounds like you've really had to fight to establish yourself as credible in certain situations. And then transferring from that energy of like, I have to prove myself to recognizing like that you were worthy. And now the question is, how can I make my daughter proud? Like, I just love that journey from the inward to the outward focus.
Yeah, it's huge. And the reality is that, again, we all go through that. We all go through, am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? And then once it clicks, once you realize, you know what, I am. And I don't have to prove that to anybody. I just got to go live that. And who's meant to be in my life will be, and who's not meant to be in my life, they won't. It's a hard thing to figure out. I'm not going to say that it's easy, but at some point we all realize, you know what, I'm stressing more trying to please others than actually just living my life and being happy with who I am.
Yeah, it's so interesting when you talk about worthiness and feeling like enough because, when you're on the path towards something that you really care about, it's like a part of your brain can trick you into thinking that you're only worthy once you obtain that thing.
Right.
But you've got to keep the worthiness ideally up, and empowering yourself like throughout the whole process and knowing that you already are enough before you get to that place so that you can get to that place and don't accidentally self-sabotage or something like that. So it's an amazing thing how it works like that.
And even when you reach the pinnacle, you still have to maintain that self-empowerment to say, you know what, I've reached this, I've accomplished the goal. Yes, I've done it. I'm good. I think about athletes, Olympians, they go out and achieve these huge goals, they become gold winners, but then what? How are you going to empower yourself to continue the good fight? Yeah, even once you do reach that level of success, you still must empower yourself to say, you know what, I'm good enough to do more. And it's one of the questions that I ask students now is, what more can you do? It's a constant question that I'm asking myself. What more can I do? How can I serve more? How can I give more? How can I love more? How can I empower myself more, empower others more? What more is there to do?
You talk a lot about shifting your perspective and you have given several examples that you've done that. When was the time where you were holding a really strong limiting belief that was creating a lot of challenge in your life, but then you made the decision to shift your perspective and have an empowering belief?
Yeah, so I would go back to when I became student body president. So I went to Florida State. Florida State, or we're just in the South in general of the United States, student government is really huge and popular. At Florida State, we had political parties. Now, it wasn't based on Republican or Democratic ideology, but based on what you saw for the needs of the campus. And so leading up to my election, there was a political party that had been around for 7 years and had won 14 consecutive elections. And so anybody who was interested at any time in student government, they were likely a part of that political party. I had worked my way up, though, to become a part of the leadership of that organization. And I just started seeing a lot of things that I wasn't happy with. A lot of nonsense, drama, people being picked over for positions, people being used and abused. And I just wasn't happy. And so I started being not rebellious, but I started being very vocal about what I seen and just got to a point where I was like, you know what, I'm tired of this. I don't want to deal with this drama. I got time for all this nonsense. I was done. I literally was like, screw student government. I was giving up on my passion. My first leadership position came in the 4th grade. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to finish school and be done. I don't have time for this crap. And so, for me, that was that limiting belief. Like, I was allowing my anger with what was going on to stop me from realizing the potential that I had to make a difference on my campus. And also realizing I was trying to tackle this feat on my own instead of getting people behind me and rallying behind me. And so I was able to shift my perspective. There's this new organization that came up. I applied to be the vice president. But when I went in front of the board, they grilled me with all these questions. After I left that interview, they felt that I should be the presidential candidate, and they nominated me to be the presidential candidate. I tell people that there were 60 positions open in my political party. So 60 people ran against the other party who had won 7 consecutive years. We only won president and vice president. We lost everything else. So 58 positions we lost, but we won the top two. And what I realized then, as I reflected, during that time, what allowed me to win my position was building relationships with other people. I had become an orientation leader. I was involved heavily on campus, but it was just laying that groundwork and shifting my perspective. Okay, so I'm mad with student government. I'm mad with the people in this organization. I'm angry with what's going on over here. Okay, shift your perspective. How can you still help the campus grow? How can you still be a leader on this campus? And so I started involving myself in other organizations and being involved with different people, which allowed me to get my name out there more, but also build these relationships and connections with people.
Thank you for sharing that. So, shifting a little bit, what advice would you give to other millennials who are on a path towards fulfillment and success?
I think the biggest thing is you have to find a mentor. I think you all would attest to this. Like, if you look back over your life, there's been people who have come into your life at pivotal points that have helped guide you to where you are. So find a mentor. Also build relationships with people. You can't accomplish this thing called life without having people there to help you along the way. Ask questions. I have a mentor that says you have to actively seek knowledge. If you ask, the door should be open. If you seek, you shall find. If you knock, the door will be open to you. And realize that mistakes leave clues. I remember when I wanted to be a lawyer, my sophomore year in college, or actually freshman year in college, I emailed like 200 lawyers, Black lawyers, Florida State alumni. And I just say, hey, I'm a freshman at Florida State. I got a 3.5 GPA. I'm interested in being a lawyer. Is there anything that you can tell me that I could be doing right now to prepare myself for law school? And I had people taking me out to lunch, to dinner. I mean, a guy took me to lunch one time. One of these lawyers took me to lunch one time, no lie, and he bought a bottle of water that was like $35. I'm like, y'all could just give me some water out of the fountain. So, but it allowed me to build relationships with these people in the law profession who I still maintain relationships with today. But again, find out what they didn't do, then do it. Mistakes leave clues. I told somebody this the other day. There is no reason why, and this probably goes with one of the other questions that you all may ask me later down, but there is no reason why young people today should not be a success. There's just too much access to the world. You want to learn how to cook? Go on YouTube and look at recipes. You want to be a artist? Upload your videos on SoundCloud and on YouTube so you can be discovered. Like, there's just no reason why you cannot learn. Everything is at our fingertips. There are so many people who say, I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. Don't wish. Go out there and make it happen. You have the opportunity to do it. You don't have to go to college in order to be who you want to be. Yeah, it's a great thing, but the level of access today is huge for you not to be who you want to be.
And your story is such a great testament to that, too. Even the example you just shared, anybody really has the access to email, pretty much anybody these days. And it's just about thinking about how to approach somebody in a way that provides value to them and that's respectful of them. But, that moment, it sounds like, where you made the decision to send out those emails to the lawyers, and the day you made the decision to email the superintendent, changed your life in such dramatic ways. And I really want to emphasize the point you're making about how empowered we all are and how so many life changes could be just one email away.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, you've spoken to so many students over the years. What do you feel are the biggest things that students are telling themselves, or the biggest limiting beliefs that are stopping them from doing what you just said, from actually being successful in their lives?
I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I can't. And the reality is that it's not them. It's what someone else has put in their mind that has caused them to believe that. And sometimes it's our own family members, right? So in 2007, my great grandmother passed away. And it caused me to reflect on my life at the time. I was I believe a junior or sophomore in college. I was in my sophomore year in college. And so I wrote a list of goals that I still carry with me today. The very first goal on that list was that I will author 4 to 5 books one day. I didn't say when. I just knew I wanted to be an author. And I remember specifically my mom walking out of the door, and I said to my mom, hey, Mom, I'm going to write a book one day. And she said, boy, you ain't going to write no book. And now I have 4 books. And I
Wow.
tell students that sometimes our own family members don't believe in us. Now, let me tell you this. It wasn't that my mom didn't believe in me. It was that she just had never seen it done before. And so because she had never seen it done before, she didn't know that it was possible for me. And so sometimes we have to realize that when our parents or people who we love and admire so much tell us that it's not possible, it's not that they don't believe in us. They just never seen someone so close to them in their sphere of influence who have accomplished that. So they don't think that it's possible. And what you have to do is show them that it is possible, that if you're truly committed to that, that you still have to go out there and do it. Now, when I accomplished my first book, my mom became one of my biggest cheerleaders. And even to this day, she still is. And so I just had to get her to understand, look, this is what I want. I'm going to go out there and make it happen. Either you could be on the train or not. And when I do, just give me my props. That's it. And honestly, I mean, again, she has been one of my biggest cheerleaders. But I think it was her own limiting belief that she tried to put on me. I mean, think about this. I mean, I've seen it happen all the time in schools. So many kids whose parents did not go to college believe that they can't go to college. What's crazy to me is that kids will come up to me and say, oh, my family doesn't have the money for me to go to school. And I'm like, your family doesn't have to have the money for you to go to school. Do you realize that because of your family history and the family situation that you're in, there are probably grants and scholarships out there for you that if you're willing to apply for, where you can go to school for free. But again, because mom and dad didn't do it, they tell their kid, oh, you can't do that. And so now kid believes, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I can't.
And that's why it's so important, I think, for people like yourself and those of us who are going into schools a lot too, because I think sometimes we can have this sense of, oh, what am I going to tell these kids that they haven't heard before, that they don't care? But you're right, Laymon. I mean, even what you just shared would be so transformational for so many students to hear. Just like, hey, your parents or family's past doesn't have to equal your future.
Yeah.
And you're right. There's theoretically college counselors and other stuff, but the reality is a lot of kids don't get that, or they get it once, or they don't get it in a way they hear it, or they don't get it in a way that their parents or guardians can access it. And so, it's so important what you're saying. And I think it just reemphasizes why your example of going into those schools and speaking to students matters so much, because you can say exactly what you just said here, but also you're the living proof that you can overcome the influence of destructive friends or people who don't care about you, that you can overcome a challenging family situation. You can put your mind to it and get that doctorate.
One of the things that I love so much, or areas that I love, is speaking in like these small towns, because most people just graduate from high school and then they go do what mom and dad did. 2 examples of that. I was in Mobile, Alabama, speaking at a high school to 9th graders. And I asked the students, what do you want to do with your life? And a young man raised his hand and he said he wanted to be a drug dealer. And I was like, what? I mean, I could not believe that he had the audacity to say that in front of 450 of his peers. And so it pissed me off. I was like, get out of here. Like you want to be a joke? I don't got time for this. Your school didn't pay for me to be here for you to be a joke. Get out. And so after I finished speaking, I mean, I was still kind of like reeling, like, why would you say that? Like, that makes no sense. Like, why are you trying to be a joke? Like, why are you, trying to be the class clown? And one of the people who brought me in said to me, all of his uncles and his dad are all drug dealers. That's all he knows. And I was like, wow. And maybe later on that year, I was in Kansas, I believe it was, and I was at a middle school. Same question posed. And the young lady said, I asked her what she wanted to do with her life, and she said she wanted to work at Tyson. And I was like, what? What is Tyson? Come to find out, Tyson Foods. There's a huge plant in the area where most people, they graduate from high school and they go right into working for Tyson Food. That's what her mom did, Tyson Food. And it just got me to start saying to myself, you know what, you have to remind these young people that they have to think bigger than their current situation. That yes, mom and dad works for Tyson Food. Yes, your uncles and your dad sold drugs, but that's not what you have to do. You don't have to live the same story. Be the author of your own story. Write your own history. Create your own legacy. You don't have to follow in the footsteps of what other people are doing in order to say, you know what, I am. You can be more. And so think bigger than where you are. But I absolutely love going to these small town areas because for me, it's like if you can expose them to what's outside of their current reality, and I've said this to them on stage, you probably won't come back home. If you leave and you go somewhere where the city is bigger, there's more people, you probably will not come back home because you'll be exposed to so much. And it'll just give you a deeper appreciation for life, for people, for relationships, and for yourself, that you'll say, you know what, there's nothing for me there. I love where I am.
Everything that you're saying, I also can see applying so perfectly to people of any age right now, because it goes back to being aware of the people that are around you. Because, as a child, the most influential people in your life are your folks, and your guardians, the people that are
Right.
that are influencing you that way. But then as you get to be an adult, it's your peers, it's your coworkers, and, being really aware of the kind of messaging that they're giving you or feedback that they're giving you on what you're capable of, and knowing that in some ways there's a part of them that is wanting more, wanting to be more, grow more, but they have that fear and they are afraid that if you change, you're going to leave them, just like you say,
Yeah.
when you grow, you might leave this town and not come back. And for some people, that's really scary. And so they may say things that probably subconsciously, but to keep you to stay.
Right.
And so just having that awareness can make such a huge difference on your life, and really trust yourself in the way that you have trusted yourself, Laymon, throughout your whole life. It's amazing.
It's important that we try to, for all of us, we try to build that within these young people today, to be aware of who you are and be aware of what it is that you really want. Now, I'm not saying that you have to know what you want to accomplish at the age of 13. I mean, again, I thought that I wanted to be a lawyer all my life. And then once I became a sophomore in college, I truly made the decision that, you know what, I want to be a public speaker. But it took me a while to figure that out. And that's okay. And recognizing that it is okay. So, yeah, we have to help these young people realize, you know what, it is okay to walk away from these situations. Even when you feel like people are putting this additional stress and pressure on you and you don't want that, to be able to vocalize, you know what, that's not what I want, and be okay with vocalizing that.
Yeah, and so much of that starts with listening to what you want and accepting that you are worthy of being able to pursue the things that you want. And, you have really done that. And we are just so thankful that you are here with us today and that you're sharing your message out there and being this example for the world. And if people want to check out you and your work online, where's the best place for them to get in touch with you?
I always tell people to just find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find me by my name, Laymon Hicks, LaymonHicks. My website, you can go to don'tbeabird.com. And the reason I tell people that is I had a bird poop on me one time, and I kind of equate that to life, that some people are just like birds. They only come into your life to crap on you.
That's amazing. I love it. And these days, you probably just type youth motivational speaker into Google, and Laymon's one of the first people who pops up. He is quite a legend. Well, Laymon, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. And again, congratulations on all your successes in your journey. And we're really thankful for what you're doing in the world.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Ivory and Blake.
For show notes and previous episodes, or to learn more about our coaching and event offerings, visit motivationalmillennial.com. That's millennial, MILLENNIAL. Keep in touch with us at facebook.com/motivationalmillennial.
We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email with your thoughts, comments, and suggestions at podcast@motivationalmillennial.com. and tell us who you might like to hear from, or if you think you or anyone you know would be good for the show.
Our theme music was composed and performed by our very own Blake Brandis.
The Motivational Millennial Podcast is edited by Brittany Felix. Have a great week, Motivational Millennials!